Good Morning Liberty.
Well, what is up, all of our liberty-loving friends? This is another fantastic episode of Good Morning Liberty. My name is Nate Thurston, and across from me is Mr. Charles Chuck Thompson. I was trying to figure out what your hat said.
Oh, Coastal.
Coastal Orange Beach.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that like...
It's a good restaurant there on the beach.
Okay.
Fairly new, but we tried it out, and it was delectable.
You're not going there anymore, though.
No.
As we talked about.
Well, I'm not going to stay there.
I got you. You did mention that you would go there to eat at restaurants,
Yes.
which means you're still going to give them, you're still going to support the tax base, which is...
Maybe I should think about
you got to
that.
consider boycotting the entire area and not sending that government any money.
Until they take back their ordinance.
Well, this connects back to our first conversation from last week, which we just can't get enough of, honestly. And you should go back and find us talking about that.
So it's definitely a more lighthearted conversation
Yes.
when it comes to local government tyrannical ordinances that you should stand up to and defy.
I miss those days.
Yes.
I miss those good old
and
days.
then the week got really heavy.
It changed.
Yeah.
Quite
I still
a bit.
feel it.
Yeah.
We didn't even get a chance to talk about Kirk's speech from the Charlie Kirk show room. My God, I've never felt so emotional, and then to have grace and fierceness in the same in the same conversation and tone. I felt in a way like the way she looked at the camera with her eyes, that some people did some really bad stuff. Like, you were in trouble.
Yeah.
We didn't even get a chance to talk about that, what happened over the weekend. There's been a lot of stuff. Sometimes we come in here and we're like, man, not much stuff.
Yeah, I can't even figure out what to talk about.
Now we come in here and there's too much stuff.
Too many things.
So you gotta try to, I don't know, disseminate how what message you're trying to get across and what's important to talk about. So
yeah, that's why we're going to do probably something a little bit different from what a lot of people are going to do today, and that's go after two specific things. There are plenty of news items to talk about as it relates to the Charlie Kirk thing, the actual assassination. We're finding out more information about the person who allegedly assassinated him. And then, his boyfriend, and then more stuff about maybe some people had some prior knowledge of it, according to some social media posts. I was telling everyone in the group, which, by the way, we just talked for 22 minutes before we started this episode, to the people in our radical Discord server called the Fed Haters Club, which you can join by going to joingml.com. And I recommend you go do that. For as little as $7 a month. But we were talking about some of those things, and I'm going to wait for a little bit more information to come out on it.
There's 1,800 different conspiracy theories happening right now.
Yes.
So good luck wading through all of that.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow probably. I'm building a conspiracy tab right now over here with the different theories and stuff, and so I'm putting together some of that information.
A conspiracy theory analysis.
Yeah, I want to go through some of the different theories that are out there. There's been a lot of claims about political violence, which side is the most violent, and of course, there are a few studies out there, a few papers out there clearly showing that the right is more violent than the left. But
as long as you leave off...
everyone on the left.
As long as you leave off Mao and Stalin and
No, we're talking about recent political violence.
Oh, okay.
And so I'm working on digging deeper into that data, and it's going to be kind of the thing. You know how when we go through the K through 12 shooting database and you find out that this guy shot someone half a mile down the road, then he went on a police chase, and he jumped out of his car, and then he went and hid in a school, and then they arrested him in a school, and then the K through 12 school shooting database put that down as a school shooting. Well, that's ridiculous. Yep. And so it's a lot of that
within
kind of
100-mile radius of a school.
Yeah.
then that's
yeah.
a school shooting. So there's, at least 100,000.
If police are called to a scene where someone claimed that someone had a gun and they arrive there, it's on the K through 12 school shooting database. You think I'm making that up? Nope, not making that up. We have specifically read through all of that stuff before.
Yeah.
So
I got to say one thing before we go on. I'm starting to, I'm not trying to make it about myself. I'm just having like an honest, vulnerable conversation. I'm starting to feel weird that my name is Charlie. And
yeah,
I'm watching and seeing all these things, and like my name just keeps going. Obviously it's about Charlie Kirk, but, it's a very strange feeling, to have the same name as someone who was martyred. And, I just wanted to get that off my chest to everyone.
Well, you're going to have
At first no thought ever entered my mind, but the more and more it keeps getting talked about, I'm just like, it feels weird.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just gonna have to do that name justice, man. And it's on you now to carry.
I will do everything I can to carry the torch. I feel like, and the more, obviously I listened to Charlie Kirk, and I was a fan of his, and there were things that we didn't agree, fully on. For instance, like he was for the death penalty, and I'm against the death penalty. And I think that, Charlie and I could have had a healthy debate on that. However, him and I agreed on, I would say, like 95 to 99% of things. But I wasn't like such a fan that I consumed all of his content. But since his passing, like many Americans, I think Charlie went from like 1.5 million followers on Instagram to like over 12 million now. So like many Americans, they are diving into all of his content and what he stood for. I'm learning there's like more and more and more that I do agree with. A couple things that I disagreed with, but it's like the majority. I think he took liberty stands on, especially knowing that he understood what libertarians would call like the holy grail of economists and free market principles. He read von Mises, he read Milton Friedman and Thomas Sowell and Hayek. He knew all of the. I watched one video. He was debating and bringing up those names, and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know Charlie Kirk knew like that level of economic principles." And so, anyway, just wanted to get that off my chest before we dive into some of the other parts of the episode.
No, I think we still don't fully understand what this is going to be. By the way, before we dive into the main content, this was like a mass trauma event for millions of people. There have been assassinations before, and like people die every day. But first off, when you just consider the sheer amount of people who saw a person get murdered, assassinated, you saw that happen. And then you saw, there's all the people there. There's the hundreds of thousands of people that maybe watched it initially, or people that were watching if it was streaming live, and then people have watched it since then, and you know why they were assassinated. Like, this is, pun intended, this is likely a turning point right now. This is not just some random story, I think, that's just going to go away and we're not going to talk about it anymore. And I hope we all find a way to turn it into a good thing, in a positive, move in a positive direction, and not use it like we use something like 9/11 to create an even more powerful government that took away even more of your civil rights and did a bunch of really terrible things.
Like hate speech and things that we're going to get into in a second.
That kind of stuff, yeah.
First, on the positive note, though, I can say, I'm trying to think of how to say this. I'll first say that I have never seen so many videos and posts across all of social media, thousands and thousands, maybe millions of people. In fact, I noticed it in my own church parking lot and service. that there are at least hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who are now inspired to go back to church. And I think that is probably the most positive and encouraging thing. There have been no riots so far. It's been a bunch of vigils. I missed the one that happened in Franklin on Sunday. I wish I wouldn't have. There appeared to be a few thousand people who gathered in downtown Franklin, which is not far from my home here. And you had a lot of influential people, and they basically had a worship service and honored Charlie Kirk's life. And I think, I don't mean this in a gruesome way, but I think if Charlie Kirk knew what would happen with his passing, with the hundreds of thousands to millions of people returning to church and God and Christ, and then he also knew that he was going to be taken out, he would still show up to the event knowing what took place. And I think the best way to honor his legacy is to spread the message, is to spread the good news of the gospel. And I think that's going to have the most positive effect, especially when people learn, like, you're filled with hate and frustration and anger, and then you learn about the gospel and how Jesus handled these things and what it means to be Christ-like, and that, you know, your Creator is with you in your suffering and weeping alongside of you, and you learn how to channel those natural frustrated anger moments into a positive or even radical position where Jesus, you know, says, pray for your enemies. Paul talks about this. And I think one of the letters, I can't remember if it's Thessalonians or Ecclesiastes, but praying for your enemies and things of that nature, that I think flips the narrative or flips the temperature from wanting revenge to, praying for your nation. And I think that's probably the most positive thing I think I've ever witnessed after such a horrific event.
And that would be the thing he would want the most happen, for sure. Totally agree with that. So we got these two things. If you want to go into the two things.
Yeah, the opposite of what, we can talk about what the opposite of what Charlie Kirk wanted, which was Pam Bondi.
We'll go into that.
We'll start with there.
I want to do this because
this is not how you honor.
No, but we're going to do the other thing first.
Before we get to hate speech.
Before we get to the hate speech thing. So one thing I've seen going around a lot, of course, plenty of people giving their opinions on everything Charlie Kirk, and so what I've noticed is that a lot of people have things to say about, say, his opinions on black women or the Civil Rights Act, or, you know, not even so much the trans issues and stuff like that, but basically people calling him a racist and a bigot.
Openly racist.
Yeah, openly racist and bigot. And, you know, I'm fine with people criticizing the things that he said that they disagree with. Well, honestly, I'm fine with it. You know, people say whatever they want to say. There are sometimes consequences for things that you say, and that is fine too.
In fact, Charlie Kirk was fine with people saying whatever they want to say. And one of the things somebody pointed out that I hadn't really noticed before is that when Charlie Kirk would have these open mic debates, the way in which, I think it was they say like actions are more powerful than words, and I didn't pick up on this until somebody pointed it out, but when Charlie Kirk would have these open mic debates, he was so much in favor of allowing someone to say whatever they wanted to say that he would put the microphone down, his microphone down, as a sign of like, I'm letting you speak and not trying to talk over the other person or anything like that. I thought that was really cool. And you see it in video after video after video after video. You know, he'd say, hey, you know, what's your question? And then he would literally set the microphone down as a way of like, probably a way of showing respect, but also not to tempt himself to cut in and things like that. So I thought that was really cool.
So one of the things going around right now, it's had its own Snopes fact check. This is something getting millions and millions of views. And what I was saying earlier is that it's totally fine to come out and say, hey, I disagree with this, and this that this guy said. What really bothers me is when people do it and it's based on a lie, or they've just made up a quote, basically. And that's something that's going around quite a bit right now.
Or they cherry pick a piece of a quote.
Yeah, they'll take a piece of a quote and then they'll take their own other part of the quote and put it in front of it to create something that he didn't say. And as we know, some people have been getting fired, or some people will say canceled, over some of their responses to Kirk getting assassinated. I want to talk about that tomorrow because there's a lot. But one of these people, this says the last Black full-time opinion columnist at the Washington Post says that she was fired over something that she said about Charlie Kirk. Karen Attia, I think, is the name right here. And so here's what she said. And if this is in fact why she got fired, I think if you are a columnist or a journalist, I think it's a fine thing for you to get fired for blatantly misquoting someone in your critique. I think maybe there's a little bit higher standard for someone who writes for a large organization like the Washington Post, although that's not something they always adhere to. So she said, my only direct reference to Kirk was one post, his own words on record. And so what she says are his own words on record go as such. Quote, Black women do not have the brain processing power to be taken seriously. You have to go steal a white person's slot. Charlie Kirk. End quote, Charlie Kirk. Now, I don't really like what he said there at the end of that statement, where he says you have to go steal a white person's slot. That's assuming that there wouldn't be anyone else who wasn't white that was going to get in that slot. So I can say I disagree with that part of the statement. If you're talking about college admissions or something, more than likely you didn't steal a white person's slot. You stole an Asian person's slot. And so, let's just do it accurately here. So she says, my commentary received thoughtful engagement across platform support and virtually no public backlash, and yet the Post accused my measured blue sky posts of being unacceptable, gross misconduct, and of endangering the physical safety of colleagues, charges without evidence, which I reject completely as false. Now, what they said is unacceptable and gross misconduct is accurate for someone who is a journalist, because she put quotes around words that Charlie Kirk did not say. And so that's a problem. Now, she probably saw this because it was posted all over the internet and going viral all over the place. On places like X or Blue Sky, if things go viral there, I don't know what they call it when something gets Tim repost, but whatever.
They're on fire.
Yeah. So someone else...
Like NBA 2K3.
Someone else said, the Washington Post fired Karen Attia because she quoted Charlie Kirk saying Black women do not have the brain processing power to be taken seriously. You have to go steal a white person's slot. She added no comment, merely an accurate quote.
No, it's not.
So I'm going to show you also now. These are new videos that just started going around today or yesterday, I guess, where they've taken a statement from J.D. Vance's appearance on the Charlie Kirk show yesterday, saying that Charlie Kirk said nothing like this. You'll note, if you're watching the video, the post on the left has 25,000 reposts and 8.3 million views. The other one has close to 1 million views and 6.8 thousand reposts so far. There is a difference between what people are quoting him as saying, and they even say it right here in this post that has 8.3 million views, where J.D. Vance says Charlie Kirk never said Black women do not have the brain processing power to be taken seriously. He never uttered those words. And then they say, oh, here's Charlie Kirk saying, Joy Reid, Michelle Obama, Ketanji Brown Jackson, you do not have the brain processing power to be taken seriously. We'll talk about the difference between that. It might be difficult for some people to understand. I don't know why that's difficult for some people to understand, but we'll talk about the difference there. But then what I want to get to, we'll play the video first, and then we're going to get to Snopes, an organization that fact-checks things for a living. We will talk about that here in a second, and the way that they lied.
I pray for you.
And
they're coming out.
I pray for you.
And their fact-check.
That you can step up and defend your oath, defend the Constitution, and do a much better job.
Sorry, I was watching the... he's praying for us, though, by the way. He's praying for Kash Patel, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Kash Patel is doing a testimony right now. So let's play this J.D. Vance and then Charlie Kirk.
The writer accuses Charlie of saying,
and I quote, "Black women do not have brain processing power to be taken seriously." But if you go and watch the clip, the very clip she links to, you realize he never said anything like that. He never uttered those words.
If we would have said that Joy Reid and Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously.
All right. So it's so interesting to me that you can put those two things together and then you can play this clip as proof that he said the thing you're claiming he said when the clip itself has him not saying the thing that you said he said. This is literally, so this is
The
becoming
mental gymnastics it takes.
And I'm going to try to be so.
Now, you can still disagree with what he said.
Well, sure, you
and
can.
You can say it's offensive or whatever.
I disagree with the second part. I don't think it's right to assume that you took a white person's slot,
Right.
Especially talking about college admissions. Statistically, you took an Asian person's slot, which I care about. And so,
Yeah.
but this right now is becoming the new find people on both sides for the left. Okay, they are very, very similar because in the famous "very fine people on both sides" quote from Trump, you had a words that he said. It's a little different because they actually took a quote that he said. Now, it just so happens about 30 seconds later in the statement, he says, "I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and white supremacists who should be condemned totally." So they took the first one and they said he just called white supremacists very fine people. And that was so ingrained in people's minds that it was still being repeated by Barack Obama in the 2024 election cycle.
Actually, it's still being repeated today.
So people still believe it.
I just saw Dave Rubin and Cenk debate on Piers Morgan when Dave Rubin was calling him out about his Charlie Kirk video titles. And
did you just call him an Asian slur?
Yeah. And Cenk still to this day believes that the fine people on both sides was a nasty rhetoric by Trump.
The writer,
It's insane. And I think Magoo makes a good point here too, because you have to understand what Charlie Kirk was talking about. He then goes on to play a video of Sheila Jackson Lee herself talking about it.
Yeah.
That's what he was talking. He was talking about that video. So the clip continues and makes it even worse for the people trying to make a claim of what he said.
So I do want to say we can clearly defend what Charlie Kirk was saying, which we actually did on Dumb Bleep of the Week last week on this very thing right here when he's talking about DEI. You don't even have to do that. The claim is that he said something that he did not say, and it's really bothering me right now. I don't know why. I think this kind of thing is what leads to you being a libertarian or something. I don't know, but I don't know why. But the fact that people are just doing
Here's
that.
the problem with that. I think it takes like what I would consider like normal, rational people, and they start to actually believe these things. You know, and they think like, I saw someone locally in Nashville who does, I think he was a former football player, but he also does like some Nashville news stuff. He's a pretty popular creator. He came on and was, I think sincerely, he was like, I don't understand because why is everyone celebrating someone who is so openly racist? Yeah, he's a black guy, and he's like, I'm all for you celebrating someone who's lived a good life, but I think, and he was sincere about it, and I think that's the kind of guy that these lies really affect. I think they're probably rational, sincere people, but they don't understand, they don't get the whole context, they don't really look into it, and they follow these other people who, journalists and other people who take things out of context and lie to you, and then it creates an even further divide. There's plenty of truth that we could debate about.
You could take plenty of things that he actually said and debate them. What bothers me is that people are taking something he didn't say. And the Snopes thing really bothered me. I saw this yesterday. So Snopes is a fact-checking organization. I'm going to show you how they lie while fact-checking and telling you the truth at the same time. So it's very interesting. Remember, the quote that is going around is black women do not have the brain processing power to be taken seriously. They decide to fact check that quote, but in their fact check, they don't fact check that quote. Okay? They fact check what he actually said when they do the fact check, but then they use the misquote as an example of what they're fact checking in this fact check. I'm going to show you right here.
And I noticed in the headline, they only quote brain processing power.
Yes, that.
And then in the subtitle, they say he was talking specifically about Michelle Obama, Joy Reid, Sheila Jackson Lee, and Ketanji Brown Jackson.
That's an amazing point right there, because they use the quotes properly. They put quotes around the words that he actually said, and then they made their own inferences outside of the quotes. But you're supposed to understand that he said the things that are inside the quotes. So they say Charlie Kirk once said prominent black women didn't have brain processing power to be taken seriously. He was talking specifically about Michelle Obama, Joy Reid, Sheila Jackson Lee, and Ketanji Brown Jackson. So let's go to the next one here. So the post they use as an example for their fact check is the misquote that they are fact checking. So here's the viral post that Snopes is fact checking. They use the quote, black women do not have brain processing power to be taken seriously. You have to go steal a white person's slot. Okay. When they actually,
and of course, they link the post and video that you could watch, but no one's going to click on it. It's a screenshot.
They do the whole dialogue of the whole thing, like in their fact check. But then when they actually give you the fact check, they explain it in the truthful way of what he actually said. And so they use the wrong quote, and then they say, true. He said that. Yep. He sure did say that these specific 4 prominent black women did not have the brain processing power to be taken seriously, while using an example of someone who was misquoting him, acting as if, and so what's the difference here?
By the way, go to that true. The true. Look at what the claim is. Turning Point USA founder and CEO Charlie Kirk once said some prominent black women did not have. Now they start the quotes. The brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. So they took his actual words and then they added, as you said, inference in the beginning, completely misstating what he actually said.
But they used it as a fact check for this post.
Yeah.
Which is not the quote.
I can see that you're malfunctioning right now.
I need to talk to a person who thinks he said this right now, or I'm not going to be able to sleep at night.
Or you need better help.
It's not going to work. And then they give the full quote in here. And so this is how they lie while telling the truth. They use the prominent post that's going around, the prominent misquote that's going around. They fact check it, but they change the fact check to the actual statement. Did he actually say the actual statement? And say, yep, it's true. And then they provide cover for people to put community notes on all these posts saying, yep, he said that. Snopes says that this is true. And so it's very infuriating right now. Like I said, this is very much a find people on both sides moment that's happening. And so what's the difference here? The clear difference is you can talk about, in a conversation about DEI, you can say, I'm going to name 4 of these prominent black women who have literally said they benefited from affirmative action or DEI policies. He's talking about Michelle Obama, one of them, and I wonder, I've heard him say this in reference to Kamala Harris, and I don't know when that clip is from. I don't know if he meant to say Kamala Harris in the quote, or because she wasn't appointed to something. Yeah. And he's talking about people being appointed to something.
Married to the president.
She's married. Like I don't think that she was a DEI hire for Obama.
And Obama got elected. It wasn't like he was appointed president.
So I'm not sure there, but whatever. I don't know exactly when that quote comes from. And so it's important to note that he can talk about those 4 people in that context, saying that they were affirmative action hires, that they got their jobs because of DEI or affirmative action. That does not mean that he made a blanket statement that all black women do not have the brain processing power. It would be similar to if someone said, Joe Biden and Donald Trump and whoever else, they're just crazy. tyrants, authoritarian tyrants who just want to steal from you and live high on the hog. And then you took that and you put, quote, here's what Nate Thurston said about Joe Biden, or here's what Nate Thurston just said. White men are just evil, authoritarian, tyrannical dictators who just want to take from you, who are living high on the hog. Do you guys understand the difference between those two things?
Who give hogs marijuana.
Yeah. Yes. So there's a difference between those two statements. One, I was talking about two specific people, and the other, when you misquoted me, said that I said a blanket statement about all people who are of a certain race and sex. And so there is a difference when people hear that. When you do a man on the street and you're like, well, what do you think about Charlie Kirk saying that black women don't have brain processing power to be taken seriously? When someone hears that, they're like, well, that's kind of crazy, right? I mean, that sounds a little racist when you think about it.
But he didn't say it.
Yeah, the problem is he didn't say it. There are different, if I can just get one last little batch of autism out for everyone. There are different ways that you could say this, and I put the different versions up here on the screen. You could take the actual quote that he said, which is, if we would have said 3 weeks ago that Joy Reid, Michelle Obama, Sheila Jackson Lee, and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us. They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You did not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to be taken somewhat seriously. Okay, so there's the actual quote. That has morphed into, quote, black women do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken seriously. It would have been acceptable if you're a news organization in today's day and age to make a headline that said something like this. Charlie Kirk said black women, quote, do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken seriously. That's still untrue, but it happens all the time in the news. They make their own inference on what they think it meant, what he said meant, and then they only put the part that the person said in quotes. Anytime you see a headline that's got an idea in front of it and then a quote, you got to go and check and see if that's what that person actually said. Mm-hmm. Because that person that wrote the headline just decided to make their own claim about what that person actually said. And then they'll use like one word from the person's quote and just write around it.
My thing is, why? Why do they knowingly do this? They know they have to know it's not true. So why? What's the point? Is it clicks?
Honestly,
is it rage bait? Is it because it fits the narrative? I don't understand. I can't quite wrap my mind around like why these alternate realities are created. There again, even with this specific quote, there's plenty to debate on what he actually said. You could be offended by what he actually said. Especially the taking the white person slot. There's many Asians, as you pointed out, that be offended by that.
Yeah.
You know? Mm-hmm. It's like, in what he actually said, there's plenty. Now, that doesn't mean that he's necessarily wrong or that he's racist or whatever. But my thing is like, why do they have to morph it into something that it's not and then push a narrative?
Well, I'll tell you the actual truth.
Because it's their religion?
I'll tell you the actual truth, and that's the people that are making this claim or who actually think this is true do not have the brain power to be taken seriously. And that's...
It's a defensive response.
Yeah. Because
they're the ones that don't have the brain processing power.
I think Charlie's right. No. Oh, man.
It's fun to joke again.
So what, here we are, and you got to go in 4 minutes.
Yeah, we didn't even get
we didn't even get the Pam Bondi, which is the news of the day. It's my bad for misarranging our topics that we're going to talk about. Pam Bondi said something that is absolutely antithetical to things that Charlie Kirk would have believed. I don't want to speak for him. Just let himself speak for himself. And he has spoken on this several times when it comes to hate speech. Pam Bondi's got to go. I'm going to make that claim today. I watched the whole context of her clip. It did not make it any better at all. She did try to come out and clarify Actually, what she did was she said, oh, well, this is what I actually meant. And she clarified what she said when she saw that no one was backing her up at all on this, which is actually a white pill. I've seen
Let's go
prominent
into it because I can be a little late.
I've seen no prominent people on the right back up Pam Bondi's statement. Now, if there are people, send that to us because we'll put that on a show called Dumb Bleep of the Week at the end of the week for when we talk about this. But here's her clip, the one that's going around right now.
There's free speech and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie in our society.
Do you see more law enforcement going after these groups who are using hate speech and putting cuffs on people so we show them that some action is better than no action?
We will absolutely target you, go after you if you are targeting anyone with hate speech, anything. And that's across the aisle.
Okay. I did listen to the whole thing. I went to the episode, backed it up a couple minutes. It basically starts right around at the answer that she gives, and there's not much more context in there. I am worried that some people on the right are going to try and use this to go after speech that they don't like.
This is what government's best at.
Yes.
That let no good crisis go to waste.
I think a guy like Stephen Miller, if he had the opportunity, would absolutely do that. I don't like Stephen Miller whatsoever. I like Steve Miller Band. It's one of my favorite bands growing up. But
I think isn't there a law being circulated right now that would give the Secretary of State the power to revoke passports of certain anti-hate speech?
I haven't looked into the details of the people that would specifically be targeted.
I haven't either,
about
but
it.
I'm just
and I
saying
also
that
heard that it doesn't have much support, but people will use something like what happened to Charlie Kirk last week as ways to get support for terrible laws that will absolutely eventually be used against you in the future.
It's so disgusting to use emotions of a crisis to push through tyrannical laws. I mean, we saw it happen during COVID like crazy.
It would be like using Charlie Kirk's assassination to create a bunch more gun laws and take guns away from people in America after you've got him fully quoted on video clip saying, well, unfortunately, some gun deaths are the price we have to pay for the Second Amendment. That's not a direct quote. Don't put quotes around that. Okay?
Paraphrase.
Yes, so paraphrasing what he said. All right. It would be like using his death to create some new gun laws for people. And
which we know, based on what Charlie has said, he would be completely against.
Yeah. Well, I'll have to dig into how he felt on the trans restrictions for guns, but I actually don't know. So don't quote me on that either. No quotes. Can we agree no quotes today? I think that's what we should mostly agree on right now. Here's a quote from Charlie Kirk. This is from him. Hate speech does not exist legally in America. There's ugly speech, there's gross speech, there's evil speech, and all of it is protected by the First Amendment. Keep America free. He also said free speech is not just being able to say what you want to say. It also means having to hear things you might not want to hear. He also said Facebook staff tried to remove Trump posts as hate speech. Liberals in Silicon Valley are tolerant as long as you agree with them. You could turn that back around on people on the right now. And then a quote that I found yesterday, I hadn't seen anywhere specifically. He talks about visiting college campuses frequently. Sometimes they're protests. They usually have a designated area where they're free to say whatever they want. I support this, even when they say things I find reprehensible or evil. Free speech must protect all speech, especially what some label hate speech. I don't have to go into the rest of it. He clearly was in favor of free speech. And even if you think that you're somehow going to shut down people's speech, which we've always made the argument that you're just going to find other places to say that you don't change the hate in people's hearts by making laws about what they can or can't say. If you go arrest people for the things they said, you're going to make even more people upset after that. So that's ridiculous. And then clearly, if you set up some kind of legal framework for that, it would create something that the government is going to use against you later on in the future, because clearly people on the right are the ones that have been accused of hate speech most often. By the way, that's probably why Charlie Kirk got assassinated, because someone thought that he was spewing hate speech all the time.
He also, by the way, at the end of this that we didn't get to, I want to read for the listeners. He was so radical as to believe in free speech to say being anti-Semitic should not be illegal. But when the anti-Semites get violent, throw the book at them. So, again, not that he would agree with being anti-Semitic. No one would agree, pretty much. Any rational person wouldn't agree with being anti-Semitic or racist or any of those things from a moral standpoint. But you don't make it illegal because free speech is free speech.
Yeah.
Regardless. And guess what? When you allow the free speech, then you can have the debate in the realm of ideas rather than them go underground and turn into groypers or whatever else you might discover in the underground waves of where they take their speech that's not allowed anymore and continue to be in an echo chamber filled with things that actually lead to taking violent action.
Yeah, I mean, it's very important that the right continue to adhere to the idea that words are not violence. Violence is violence, and you go after people who commit violent acts against people. But the idea that words are violence somehow, or that hate speech is somehow violence, is probably why Charlie Kirk got assassinated last week, because someone thought that words were violence. That is why so many people on the left will go after people who are just saying things that they disagree with. It's an absolutely disgusting thing to do, and people should not stoop down to that level because there was a cancel culture during COVID and BLM and all of that. And if anything, you should make sure that you take down any of the legal structures that existed to create that environment in the first place to make sure it never happens again. That's the problem. You know, I heard there's this movie like Lord of the Rings or whatever, and there's this ring. I think it's got powers. I don't know. I've never seen it. But given the memes I've seen, the idea should have been that you destroy it, that you get rid of it, you know? That's about the end of my knowledge of that movie. But what I reckon is...
I feel like that's kind of a crime.
Yeah.
How can you be a libertarian podcast host and not seen or read The Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, I've never been into that kind of stuff.
How can you even be slightly autistic?
I don't know. Can I?
I don't think you can.
I obsess over this all night now.
Gosh, we've discovered something else. First it was Braveheart. Now The Lord of the Rings. What else? What else is... We've been friends for so long. How did I not know this?
I've never seen Harry Potter. Is that important?
No, not as important as Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
Similar story, but...
I tried to watch it one time. I fell asleep first time I tried to watch it, and then I was over. I was over it at that time.
Oh, man.
So I went and rented it down at Jumbo Video. And
even Amazon came out with a series, a prequel.
Yeah.
To The Lord of the Rings, which I thought was...
Just looked awful to me.
It was actually really good.
Anyhow.
All that to say...
The answer here, if the right wants to do anything to prevent this kind of stuff in the future, they've got to actually do what they said what they wanted to do when we were talking about electing someone on the right in the power, which is take away the powers of the government that have been used against you. Anything that you use against someone else will be used against you again in the future. And you're not only giving them that power, you're giving them almost that right. You're giving away your principles, your principled leg to stand on, as we like to say. You're giving that away to make you a hypocrite in the future when you complain against it. Of course, there's hypocrisy happening right now and all over the place. But it doesn't give you a right to be a hypocrite. The answer is that it's wrong to be a hypocrite. You don't make it right by also being a hypocrite on things. So just don't do it. That's my big warning to everyone right now. We've got a fork in the road right now. Maybe many forks in this road right now that we can go down. And whichever path we choose right now in this very emotional time that people are in, where they want revenge, they want to go after the perpetrators, they want to go after the ideology, whatever it is, you got to make the right decisions right now. The only way you're going to stop or slow down or prevent anything that can be prevented is by getting rid of all this government power that's going to be used against your organizations in the future, against your movement, and putting your people in prison later on.
And by the way, Charlie Kirk had a lot to say about taking away government power. I think he was leaning libertarian in that sense.
I think it would have eventually been a libertarian. I think that would have been the case.
Yeah. Anyway, Well, I think that about does it. I think the only thing left is some people in the Fed Haters Club are saying we need to talk to your parents about their failures. And it is kind of shocking to me knowing that you have a very good relationship with your mom, and I know your mom well, great woman. One of your favorite things to do with your mom, I know, is to go watch movies. Mm-hmm. It's definitely, you guys go to the theater. But a lot of times when you're back in Illinois, you and your mom are going to see a movie. I've been to movies with you and your mom. It's definitely, you guys watch movies at home.
Yep.
And I just can't quite figure out how something like The Lord of the Rings wasn't part of that bonding experience. And perhaps your mom doesn't like those types of.
No, my mom and I went to the video store. I said Jumbo Video earlier. It might have been that one that was on the Square in Vienna.
Vienna Video.
Yeah, Vienna Video.
Yeah, they sponsored my baseball team.
And we rented it, and we brought it back, and we turned it on, and I found it to be uninteresting, and I fell asleep. And then that was it.
So you hate, you hate little people. You hate dwarfs and tiny little, like that's where the movie starts, you know.
That's what it was.
Frodo and I guess that's, you hate.
I thought it was going to be a short movie. It turned out to be like 2.5 hours long or something. I don't even know.
I think all of them are like 3+ hours, you know.
Can I get like a synopsis? Can I just read like an AI overview of the movies? You think that'll take care of it?
The books are better.
Yeah.
You might actually enjoy listening to the books.
No, I don't do fiction.
Well, do you like Narnia? Did you like Narnia?
Never heard of her.
What?
No.
You don't like C.S. Lewis?
Well, I've heard of her.
Oh, we got some work to do in the Fed Haters Club here.
I've never been a fan of fantasy.
You like sci-fi?
Fiction. I like sci-fi.
Sci-fi, but not
the closest.
It has to be futuristic fantasy.
It has to be potentially possible fantasy. So I'm like, okay, Star Wars, Force is a little bit weird, but pretty cool movies overall. Who knows? Maybe someday, long enough timeline in the future, we'll find all these.
Well,
different
hang on
planets,
though. You don't
like
think like spiritual things are possible?
I mean,
like, you know,
could be. That's why I have an exception for Star Wars, but that is as far into a fantasy movie as I will go. I'm more of a Star Trek guy. I want like, okay, on a long enough timeline, this
teleportation is real.
Yes. Yeah. On a long enough timeline. That's what I'm saying.
We could travel at the speed of light.
Yeah.
Or faster.
Faster than that even.
Yeah, and everything would end up fine.
Mm-hmm. We don't actually. It's the space around the ship that travels.
Oh, that's right.
Faster than the speed of light.
We stand still. Okay, makes total sense to me. I also know you don't really like the medieval times things. Like you're much more of a gun guy. You're not a sword and bow and arrow guy.
If I see someone that's got like a sword and the chain, what's that called?
Chainmail?
Chainmail, yeah. Or someone's got like a freaking metal hat on.
You're out.
I'm like, this is stupid.
Yeah,
That's not possible.
Would never put a metal hat over my hair.
No one would ever do that. That's ridiculous.
Although it happened in real life.
That's the joke.
Yeah. You don't think dragons are real?
No.
Back in the dinosaur age, maybe even? I mean,
sure.
You mix a pterodactyl and a crocodile.
So are you telling me we have more time to do more topics today on the show?
No, I've got to go.
Okay.
This is kind of an informal meeting. I let them know I was going to be late. And I'm just kind of rounding this out.
They're probably watching the stream right now.
All right. Well, if you guys enjoyed this episode and need to convince Nate of some things, please send him an email, nate@goodmorningliberty.us. That's nate@goodmorningliberty.us. Or you can join the Fed Haters Club, have a direct access to DM him on Discord, the radical server that we host our show on, Discord. Now, I don't know if he'll check that or not, but at least you have the option by going to joingml.com. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you think it's worth it, which it is. So do that. Go to the links in the show notes to visit the sponsors that support this show. And if you do all of that, we'll be back again tomorrow. Hope you have a good day and a good morning, Liberty.